Hi, Phillip. Welcome to this podcast. And thank you so much for taking your time and joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here. It was quite the ride, but we made it in one piece. So.
Yeah, we did. And whenever I'm thinking of you, Phillip, I'm always having this picture of you sitting in front of a computer in the Netherlands and researching, reading a lot, maybe creating some AI. I don't know. I just have that image of you being young and already digging into the knowledge and getting to know as much as you can.
Well, there's always been this deep inner fascination, like this deep thirst for knowledge. So when I was like a very small little boy, I think I must have been around 6 or 7 years old, I was basically already watching Discovery Channel and National Geographic all day long. There was this insatiable thirst for knowledge which could not possibly be quenched. So it was around that time that my father taught me how to use Google. I started using technology very early on in this lifetime, and yeah, like you start discovering things about the fabric of reality, the secret laws of the universe. You start opening up your horizons, and at some point you start realizing that some things are not what they seem in this world. And this definitely set me on this grand journey of awakening, where bit by bit I was able to get my hands on some pretty mind-shattering paradigms and new ways of looking at this world and reflecting them in the way I relate myself to the world and the universe at large. Yeah.
So you've taken a path of kind of self-realization since a quite young age. And where did it lead you?
So, when I was like 6, 7, I was just like mainly watching documentaries on Discovery Channel, these kind of things, Googling questions. But it started more and more to be about science, about astronomy, about I was learning about black holes and all kinds of stellar phenomena. I was really eager to uncover the secrets of the universe. So when I was 11 years old, you know how most people give their presentation at school and they talk about their pet rabbit? Well, when I was 11, I did my presentation about the Large Hadron Collider, which is a particle accelerator. So already at this age, I was extremely fascinated with physics and the inner mechanisms of the universe, basically, and the way reality is perpetuated. And fast forward from when I was around 13, this is really when the big rabbit hole for me started opening up, because for the first time I started looking at our society at large. I started realizing that many of the power structures, many of the paradigms, many of the ways that we have structured society are actually to the detriment of humanity at large. Right? So I started looking into the financial system, how does it work, fractional reserve banking. I started looking at false flag attacks, geopolitics, the petrodollar, all these kind of topics, right? Secret societies, and slowly but surely I got more and more down the rabbit hole. And I'm definitely telling the truth when I say that that was a very difficult time for me as well, because I was 13 at the time, and my brother did introduce me to some interesting sources at the time, but very soon after he left me to go my own way, and he fell asleep again, basically. And it was a very interesting awakening, a very difficult awakening, because I was 13, and basically I, for the first time, started looking at the world at large and the stuff they don't want you to know. About looking at the corruption within the very society that we have built for ourselves as a species. So for the period of around 3 to 4 years, I got very depressed. I went inward. This depression hit a peak around 14 to 15, which is when I first started getting into spirituality. At the time, I was studying quantum physics, right? And the power of the observer. So I don't know if you've ever heard about the observer effect. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I do.
Well, it basically tells us that when we look at reality, we are basically changing reality. We can change the position of subatomic particles based on whether reality is observed or not. So at first, everything is in a superposition. Everything is everywhere at once. It is in a state of quantum flux. It is everywhere simultaneously. Yet after we choose to observe, that piece of reality. Suddenly that one subatomic particle is solidified in one place in terms of space and time. When I started looking into this, and when I also came to the conclusion that the whole banking system was corrupted, I decided I didn't want to be a debt slave in my life. So yeah, I was researching quantum physics. I came to the conclusion that the whole financial system was a lie. So I got into crypto. I realized that cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology had the purpose of fully decentralizing power and resources. So I got into that. I had built a gaming computer at the time. I started mining crypto. And before I knew it, I was starting to network in that space. And this is when a very defining point in my journey came, because I met a man from India. I think he was in his 30s around that time. And he taught me about meditation, about spirituality. And being in the deep slumber, in the deep depression that I was in at the time, like for the first time in my life, I started looking at the world as I thought as it truly was. Right?
At the age of how old were you?
I was 14 at that time.
14. Mm-hmm.
So in the year prior, I started, of course, going down a rabbit hole, studying the global power structures, the hidden mechanisms of control, basically. And this made me very depressed. I went inward, and yeah, I came to the conclusion that I wanted to walk a different path than be a debt slave for this lifetime. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was this beautiful convergence between different tangents, between different timelines, and it ended up coalescing in meeting this man from India, studying quantum mechanics and realizing the true power of the observer. I started realizing that I was not a victim of the reality I was living in, but a powerful creator. I started learning about the power of consciousness in itself, how we're all co-creating this holographically created reality. So this moment at 14 was a really, really big milestone in my journey. And this was at this moment almost 11 years ago. I'm 25 now. And yeah, ever since that moment, there was a really interesting balance in my personal process of inquiry between the material and the spirituality, basically.
Mm-hmm. How do you position yourself in between two worlds? Do you find it easy to navigate between spirituality and materialism? Because we are living now in a world where we are so much into consumerism, and we are, I would say, almost programmed into buying things that we don't necessarily need.
Yes, so of course, finding a balance between the material and the spiritual definitely isn't always easy when you live in a reality that's defined by duality, right? So at one moment you may feel very connected to spiritual essences, and you may be having the sensation of not even being bound to the physical anymore. And at another time, the reality just literally pushes your face in the dirt, and you're forced to feel again and be really grounded and become connected to the material. As the years have gone by, more and more have I not started looking at materialism and spirituality as two mutually exclusive things, but basically I've started seeing it as two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. So it is not about either being materialistic or either being spiritual. It is about finding a natural synthesis, realizing that materially solidified reality that you can touch and you can feel and you can experience was birthed from the immaterial. So the material essence of reality is birthed from that which had no form before. So the form and the formless are one and the same. And yeah, my study of Taoism and of course the paradigm of yin-yang and the dance between the elements of life has taught me that this is a very universal dance. It is a dance which is very natural and very organic. It only becomes imbalanced when through the figments of our imagination, through the illusions of the mind, we say, okay, either it has to be that or it has to be this way. So I find a most constructive approach to really synthesize the two, realizing that they all stem from the same source. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I can listen to your answers for ages. It's better than the ChatGPT to me. And when we talk about technology, ChatGPT and different AI that we are now have been imposed to. I am very curious. What's your approach about it? What do you think? Does it? Well, we do know it does serve humanity in a certain ways, but what is the danger that humans might encounter? Would it destroy our creativity? How would it impact us?
So let me say this. I am of the firm belief that the choices we make as a species in the next 5 years will determine the outcome of the next 1,000 years. As of this moment, humanity stands on a evolutionary divergent trajectory. This is a very complicated speech, but what it means is we have two separate directions we can evolve into as a species. This is the discussion of transhumanism versus becoming the fully actualized multidimensional human being. It is the choice between a fully actualized organic consciousness, activating the capacities of our body and the information stored within our DNA, or between merging together with technology and becoming more machine than man. These are two divergent directions. These are, I would say, mutually exclusive. The way I approach AI is very much based in this more universalistic paradigm that the way we choose to use technology will play an instrumental role on the next stage of human evolution. This is I think, the most, for me, this is personally the most important aspect to this. So what I would say is, like, instead of AI fully replacing human beings, fully replacing our organic tenets, fully replacing our human spark of creativity and ingenuity, instead, I would say that we should mend AI into a tool to complement our organic essence as spiritually evolved beings in a way that is truly symbiotic. I see great potential for AI to basically be like a personalized ascension guide. For AI to take over menial tasks, which in a more enlightened world where we live in this universal abundance, it would mean that humans have more space, time, and knowledge to truly pursue those things that make them human. This is in contrast to the vision that is proposed by the World Economic Forum and other similar parties. They propose a very fearful direction for AI, where AI could grow to become a global control structure. AI, as we know it currently, could be used to power a system based on digital identities, based on carbon credit systems, based on social credits, and basically creating some kind of digital prison where the souls of human beings are reduced to mere numbers on a screen. Now, if I weigh these two potential timelines, like, do we go for the digital dystopian prison, where a small amount of technocrats have all the power in how human beings live their lives in dignity, or do we go for a truly circular, holistic, abundant utopia, where human beings mend their ties with the cosmos and we truly become a proud star-faring civilization? For me, the choice is very obvious.
Yes, how do we make sure that the humanity makes the right decision? Because we know how much we are now imposed to even making decisions, right? And the same AI that could have been used in the greatest way that you have just described could have been used in the opposite, in a complete opposite way when it comes to controlling us. And I think we've got certain platforms, social media, where they exactly know what products do we buy, and there is so much of data collected so far. So my concern is that human beings are just hypnotized into something that they might not necessarily make their own decision and choice. They might be pushed in some way towards not right direction. How can we avoid that? How can we be super conscious so we all make the right decision?
Well, I feel it's very important to state that the way we choose to use technology is very much a product of our own spiritual paradigm, right? So the level of spiritual development that you have in your life, and of course this can, like, I'm generalizing, because there, like, in the grander scheme of things, there's no higher or lower, just different perspectives. However, when you start seeing things from a more holistic, cosmically intertwined perspective, you start realizing that you are at one with what you experience. What I have experienced from my own journey is that as I started changing spiritually, the way I started looking at technology also started changing. So yes, you can use an atom, you can split open an atom and make a nuclear weapon, but you can also use that very same power to power many, many homes, right? So it has everything to do with, I think, a very solid set of ethical and moral guidelines, which will naturally be inspired if you have this all-encompassing feeling that you are part of something greater. In other words, you recognize that when you choose to do harm to another, you are basically choosing to do harm to yourself. You realize that the product of your actions will inevitably reflect back onto your own experience. So when you know this, when you recognize this, when you are aware of the way the world is moving currently, and you see these divergent timelines, and you know deep in your heart which path to choose, well, then it will naturally start reflecting, I would say, in the way you choose to use technology. So instead of using AI to purely concentrate power, resources, and knowledge, and to perpetuate existing systems of scarcity-based control, instead of that, we could use AI to build a global cognitive framework where we truly remove all the needs for the gatekeeping of knowledge, right? There is a massive monopoly on information in this world. If you look at the universities, if you look at the media institutions, if you look at the museums, there is a very vested interest in the status quo to keep humanity desperately asleep. And the moment they get their hands on the right knowledge, the right paradigms, the right perspectives, the moment they start awakening from an experiential level, guess what? It will be game over for these people.
Yeah.
And this is why I would say if there's a spiritual battleground being fought on this planet, then the way we choose to use technology is very much intertwined with that. So I would say that if you look at our collective ascension trajectory and the way technology is developing at breakneck speeds, these are two sides of the same coin. This is all, so I refer also back to the path that I've walked over the last 11 years. Really the balance between these two aspects.
So the more we are awakened, the better decision we can all make. And when it comes to awakening and humanity, what do you think? What percentage right now it's awakened? And I know there are many people, I can feel it. I don't know. It's, I haven't done like research. And how can we know it? We probably can just presume it. But there are quite a number of people who are ready to be awakened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Well, sometimes I go by the saying, throw a rock and you hit a light worker. It's like when I was 13 years old, I experienced, I was all alone. Like there were no people in my surroundings that were working with similar paradigms, whether it was from societal research or the unfolding of spiritual paradigms, experiential awakening, these kind of things. But I'm sure you have talked about many of these topics on your previous podcasts. However, as the years started going by and I started to fuel the fire within, unleash my inner spark and truly establish a greater coherence with the mission that my soul was sent here for, I started meeting more and more people reflecting that internal change. And where at first I was all alone, now 11 years later, like there is a massive global army of light workers and awakened souls. And
are we talking about Bali specifically, or are we talking worldwide?
we're talking worldwide. This is a global telepathic powered awakening. So there is a group consciousness that we have as a species in both a conscious and a subconscious level. And purely the fact that we are right now discussing these themes means that other people in the world are tuning into this resonance and synchronistically attracting knowledge, experiences that may seek to awaken these parts of themselves. For in truth, humanity is merely awakening to those aspects which have always been on the inside. It is not so much a learning of new things, it is much more a remembrance of that which we already knew. The code is within our DNA. And to get back to your question, how much is the percentage? Well, if you ask me, I would certainly say that more than 10% of all people worldwide are awake. I would even say that it is more closer to 20% at this point. See, just from the fact that we look at, let's say, the amount of people that have taken the COVID vaccine, well, there's a solid 20% that really didn't want to take it.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot more people, they started questioning after, like, hey, what happened? Like, wasn't I supposed to be able to trust the government blindly and never ask questions and have the trust and the feeling that I'm being taken care of? Well, obviously that reality has shifted dramatically in the last 5 years. Many things have happened, and this is just one very small tangent, but there is many tangents which are indicating that on a global scale we're truly awakening. Well, just last week, the Epstein papers were released. Well, that is an interesting topic. Disclosure is happening about extraterrestrial involvement in planetary affairs for humanity. This is interesting. I believe it's a limited hangout. I definitely believe they're not telling us everything there is. But the fact that these topics are being mentioned after 80 years of intentional cover-up, that is interesting to say the least. There is a pattern here. And my prediction is that within the next 5 years, the global awakening process will be magnified exponentially, especially as new interdimensional, multidimensional information systems are crafted that will allow humanity to truly build this holistic utopia. I am of the belief that all of the solutions that we are seeking as a species have been here for a long time. It is not the solutions that we have to seek, it is the will to change.
And do you think there is a technology that is going actually to help us to communicate to extraterrestrials?
Well,
could it have been something, an AI built for us to communicate to higher species? Because obviously believing that it's just only us in the whole universe, that would have been quite an arrogant attitude, I would say.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the universe is so grand, so great. There are so many different dimensions of consciousness out there, which a soul can experience. So many different densities to be explored. Yeah, like beyond the shadow of a doubt, we are definitely with a lot more species than just humanity in the cosmos.
I have also encountered certain books, and they would call higher species as ascendant masters, and yeah, I do like that approach. So yeah, coming back to NI, do you think, is it how we possibly going to communicate?
So your question is about if we can emulate the process of channeling with AI-based technology?
Yeah.
I think it is within the realm of possibility, definitely for sure. The true technology, of course, to be used for channeling is always found within. But I am very confident that when the channel is nurtured from the inside out, when a human being decides to purify themselves, to align themselves with the cosmic forces of creation, to burn away everything that is impure, unjust, out of alignment with their unique individual soul blueprint, then the opportunities will arise, the external as well, to communicate with beings and entities which are not of this dimension. For the activation of our DNA serves as the greatest technology to facilitate interdimensional contact. This is my personal perspective on that.
And when you say activation of DNA, what do you mean?
So there's like the conventional science is telling us that a lot of the human genome doesn't serve a specific purpose, right? So with the indexing of our genetic coding through the CRISPR-Cas method, they're basically saying, yeah, more than 90% doesn't serve a purpose. And the part that is activated, well, these are of course very instrumental for human life, but we're sitting on top of this massive amount of unactivated DNA, and apparently it serves no feature whatsoever. It serves no purpose whatsoever. So this is interesting to say the least. Now, on many books that I've read, but also in my own personal experience, I have found that when the physical vessel is purified, when we start altering the environment in which the cells can co-create and create new life, create new, more vital versions of themselves, when you start going into the realm of epigenetics, when you start realizing that you as a conscious creator can intelligently shift the environment in which your cells are procreating. Well, what I have experienced is the onset of heightened psychic abilities. Like I have found over the years that as my vessel has become more pure, that it has become increasingly more easy to tap into aspects such as telepathy or interdimensional contact, or like experiencing a lot of different synchronicities, or being able to go without solid food for longer times, having more clarity, having more vibrancy, having more power inside of the human body, despite not weighing more. Like these are all aspects, I would say, that allow us to become superhuman. We have the prototype for the next evolution for humanity inside of ourselves.
Yeah.
We just have to nurture that environment.
Yeah, I think all of us, and I mean, those who are watching us as well, have experienced from time to time, at least guessing that the phone is going to ring before we picked it up into our hand, and things like that. You would think of a friend and you would meet them, and many different. In so many different ways, we already communicate telepathically. We're just not very aware of it, and I don't think we give the right amount of attention to it, because if we practice that, I'm sure that we do all have those psychic abilities that you have mentioned. And talking about purifying the body. And what's your tools? What do you use to purify the body and mind? Because we know it's one.
Yeah, of course. Like there's many modalities, of course, that can be used from a holistic paradigm to cleanse the body. However, before I will go into that, I think it might be good to share a little bit of my personal history. It's like. Like from a very young age, I noticed that I had like excruciating skin problems, like massive bags under my eyes, like I was always battling with chronic fatigue syndrome, getting burnt out really easily. And basically from the period of 14 to when I was 18, I didn't really study anything about holistic health yet. I was mainly into spirituality and uncovering metaphysical laws and these kind of things. And then when I was 18 and I returned from my first gap year journey from Indonesia, this is when a massive shift happened in my life, because I came back and I noticed that my body was sick, and it was a chronic sickness. It was not an acute thing. It was not like you get a cold for a few days and then it's over. My skin was extremely dry, very itchy, massive yeast infection, gut dysbiosis. I was dealing a lot with electronic hypersensitivity. I had massive bags under my eyes. I had very little energy. I was constantly tired, massive bloating. Like my gut was basically completely out of alignment. And my brother was at that moment he had also awakened in the meantime, by the way, I didn't tell that, but like in the journey in between, he also started getting into spirituality and these kind of things. Mm-hmm. And around that time, we were discussing this, like, hey, you also feel like these physical symptoms? We're like, yeah, like we both have these things. So we set out on a quest, right? We made a pact that we would discover the true cause of human illness together. And what grew from that inquiry was quite beautiful. We started devouring, I would say, that's a better word, like hundreds of books on these topics. We would have very lively discussions. I think we have talked for thousands of hours on the topic, like really, really in-depth communication about holistic paradigms. And one of the first tools that I started getting into was the art of the liver flush, right? So intelligently cleaning out the gallstones from the liver. so that your blood gets cleaned up, and from there on out, vitality is restored. But over the years, many tools have come my way. So I've been experimenting with liver flushes. I have been experimenting with all different modalities of fasting. So juice fasting, water fasting, and dry fasting. I've been shifting more into that. I find it to be an extremely efficient and powerful tool for reconfiguring the state of the cells of the human body. But over the years, I've been able to explore many different paradigms. I bought a slow juicer around that time. I started juicing almost every day. I started shifting my diet to like a really high vibrational vegan diet. So I drink a lot of herbal tea. I make my own salads. I have a slow juicer to make my juice.
I've heard of a celery juice that is incredibly healthy.
Yeah, like this I've used to great effect to cure my skin problems as well. Like if you looked at me a year ago, you would be surprised, basically.
How about, I would obviously love you to carry on, but I'm so curious, how was it your internal state, your mental state? Did you feel love towards yourself, or was it maybe some kind of something that you couldn't accept in yourself at that times?
So yeah, as I started moving on this health journey, of course, I realized that there was more than just discovering external modalities, right? And trying certain life hacks to the healing journey. And especially in the last year, I really, for the first time in my life, I started reawakening the power of my heart. So for many years, I had repressed my emotions. I was bullied basically from the period of 14 to 17. People that were once my friends, they started making fun of me. And basically, I was being ridiculed because I wanted to tell people about the true state of the world at a very young age. I was beyond my years. Of course, I don't blame them in any way. I fully understand what happened, but naturally this made a very traumatic imprint in my energy vessel. So I've always had the feeling like I wasn't good enough, like I always had to do better. I was always showing off with my intelligence, seeking to earn external validation at my own detriment, right? So there were many cycles where I would, let's say, I would be volunteering for an external organization, and I would basically be for charity, and I would basically be spending so much time and energy that I forgot to take care of my own needs. So this helper syndrome combined with this self-loathing and the feeling of not feeling good enough, this feeling of not feeling safe in my own body, this ungroundedness, the act of fleeing in my mind because I thought it was too scary to be fully present in my own physical body. This process led to a massive cascading around half a year ago at this point. It is still very fresh, but yeah, like I'm more than willing to go into this. The discovery and the peeling away of all these different layers inevitably made me go to the core of my condition. And I realized that my skin problems were psychosomatic. I realized that the true cause of these skin problems was because I was not feeling safe in my body. So the boundary of my body, my skin, reflected that. And the way things truly started changing, of course, I went on a retreat with you around half a year ago in October already. It was very nice. We went on a retreat for the game. Lovely game. I've had the pleasure of playing a couple of times. Christian is truly the Willy Wonka of conscious card games, so I would highly recommend playing a few sessions. Anyways, at the retreat, and I spoke to Elena, who was a very interesting woman, was also at the retreat. And we had a tarot session, and she basically laid it all out in the open for me. She basically told me what I already knew in my heart, which is that I was still repressing my emotions. I was incongruent in that sense. Like my mind wanted to be different than what my body was feeling at the time, right? So I could be very cheerful in my communication, but in the inside I would feel anxious, right? And not properly at home in my own body. Like there would be an anxiety, there would be a pressure, there would be the need to overcompensate by using my throat chakra, which was way too overactive. And this was the start of an amazing journey, this realization. Because in the next few days after I returned from the retreat, I consciously started pulling my energy into my heart chakra. I would breathe light into it, in my meditations each morning, I would like feel the power reverberating here. I would wake it up and I could feel a lot of heaviness, a lot of pain, a lot of how to describe it.
Emotions arising.
There were a lot of emotions arising, and yeah, there was like this feeling of guilt, this feeling of not being able to receive, the feeling of always having to work for someone else's love, and really like not having filled my own cup. So I took that as it came, and I truly recognized that that was for the very best of my own evolution, that it was now time to go to the root of it. And as I started meditating on my heart, as I started breathing light into it, the first moment of emotional catharsis came, right? My emotional body started activating. I had not had proper crying sessions for the better part of 5+ years. Very occasionally it would happen, but it was a very sporadic event. It was like something very big had to happen for that to occur. However, in the last 5 months, I went from one release of emotional cathartic release to another, to another, to another. And I can truly say in the last 5 months, I have been able to cry more times than in all the years that have come before that.
It's like peeling the layers, right, of your emotional body and letting it all coming out, because we were told that crying is so bad and we shouldn't cry, especially men,
Oh, yeah.
right? Since
For
you're
sure.
little, you are just you're exposed to having your emotions suppressed, and yeah.
And it was truly a miraculous happening, because like I came to know a part of myself that I never knew existed. It started snowballing. So there was like, first there were like a few minor releases, then it started building up, and the next week there were another few. And I remember for the 1st of November, I planned a Bufo session. From time to time, I like to dabble in DMT because it helps me basically wire myself to the true self, to the cosmic self, to the connection with the beyond, so to speak, the consciousness after dying. And for that session, I had set the intention to fully break open my heart wall. Right? It's like I feel there's many people on this planet that have a heart wall unconsciously. If people ask me, Philip, what is a heart wall? A heart wall is really a complex of emotions that have solidified, have like a stagnant essence, and they have gathered around the heart chakra, right? So there's literally a wall that we have built, a dam to block the emotional flow of water, right? And I knew that that dam was starting to break. In those first few releases, the cracks were showing that dam that I had held up for such a long time. And to tell you the truth, I was tired of holding up that wall. I was seeing the reflections of how it was reflecting my relationships, in my finances, in professional endeavors, the feeling of not being good enough, the feeling of the helper syndrome, the nice guy syndrome. I was done with that. So I set the intention, you know what, let's break open the heart wall. So I went to the Bufo session. I meditated on my heart chakra before. I took the medicine and I could feel this massive reverberation of energy going through. I could, of course, try to explain the effects of DMT on a human body, but it is quite profound. It's extremely powerful. You have an instant ego death, and there was pure life force energy moving from my body. Then, as these vibrations, they started descending, and I came back from the experience, the only thing I could say was miraculous. And after that, I completely broke, like there was like the biggest emotional release in my life, I would say. I was sobbing. I was like crying for, I think, almost 50 minutes straight.
That was after the Bufo session?
That was after the Bufo session. So it had dislodged that heart wall. And after that, like now I go through my days. Now I go through my weeks. And when I like listen to a beautiful piece of music or watch a movie or I get this realization, I just cry naturally. It just comes to me, and it's not forced anymore. It just arrives spontaneously. And it has truly changed my life, I would say. It has truly allowed me to feel at home in my own body. To feel safety, once again, to feel grounded, to be at home in my own skin. And I have seen all my skin problems disappear in that time since. So it is nothing short of miraculous, I would say.
Wow, Congratulations, what a story. And also, being vulnerable, it doesn't make you less of a man, right? And I think that's what we are lacking nowadays. We are forgetting about showing our vulnerability, because that's also a part of being human. We don't have to be perfect. We're just living in the times where everything looks perfect on social media. And of course, that leads into depression and anxiety. And I even read recently that many teenagers are taking their lives. There's quite a big number of suicides happening all around the world. So yeah, we've got to remain human and remember we do have an emotions.
Well, yeah, there's just so much conditioning out there these days, and yeah, personally, I've stopped using all social media because I truly don't resonate with that paradigm anymore. Like, of course, I love to create and I love to build systems and spread consciousness and these kind of things. However, when I look at the plastic, superficial world that's being projected on the great majority of all people, like when you just open your phone, you see all these people with supposedly perfect lives. They're all millionaires, they're flying private jets, they go to all the nice places, they have the perfect body, the perfect looks, they're 10 out of 10, and blah, blah, blah. Well, we are looking at a hallucination. Because first thing, they're only showing their high points. They're not showing realness, they're not showing vulnerability. Because if you show yourself at like your darkest moment, and you put that on your timeline, that's not going to earn you any sponsorships. It's, it's like there's a certain world that's being portrayed and it lacks realness, it lacks rawness, it lacks vulnerability. And this is why I think there's so much loneliness amongst teenagers, being an adolescent myself, right? Like coming out of that period. Like there's so big of a need to try to fit in a world that's so desperately sick. I think it was Krishnamurti that said, it is not a measure of good health to be well adjusted to profoundly sick society. I think he said that. I have to agree with him. So, yeah, if you're crazy for showing your vulnerability, if you're crazy for seeking real connection, if you're crazy for owning your authentic true self, I guess I must be crazy.
In a good way. It's actually good to be crazy. I believe that craziness, when we look inside of who we are and understanding our beings, it's very beneficial comparing to the insanity of what is happening around the world right now. And I have seen so many bloggers and, influencers taking beautiful videos and photos, and then after that becoming completely different people. And I would really like to do my best to change that artificial portrait of what the world is, because it's never been like that. And I have encountered many wealthy people who are never been like showing off the private jets and the life they've had, because they did not have such a need. And I do believe that nowadays that
it's like an epidemic of narcissism, right? That's what you're saying.
I would say it's even lack of self-acceptance and self-love, and that seeking validation that you have mentioned earlier. It just became so natural, and it's almost encouraged to grow, which is very scary in a way. Is it where we are leading with all the technology and other opportunities to grow, to develop towards the highest consciousness, and use all those beautiful devices that are now on the market, and there are luckily so many related to health or studying. We could have navigated into self-discovery and how can we expand our potential. And this channel is also about greatness within us, and that potential that is within us. How do we reach that?
Beautifully said.
Yeah. So that's my wish for the humanity. And I'm a little bit concerned when I hear Elon Musk and Donald Trump investing billions of dollars.
Yeah, it's to pivot a little bit more on the topic that we were discussing earlier, the transhumanism versus the
Yes.
organically ascended human being.
Yes.
What I see very clearly, and this is my personal opinion of Elon Musk, I see that he is fully invested in the transhumanist timeline, right? So he's literally creating a device called Neuralink. It's already conducting human trials. And basically what it is a brain-to-machine interface. So you could say, what is the next step? A lot of people are now using ChatGPT, prompting a lot. The next step is, I would always call it like a false enlightenment. It would be linking the omnipotence of large language models directly with our brain. This would be the next step. So we have seen a slow but steady trajectory of technology we hold in our hands, to technology we hold on our body, to technology inside of the human body. And of course, when we start allowing technology inside of our bodies, we are making a very big statement. We're making a statement that we are starting to merge with technology. Technology will replace those human faculties which we deem to be inferior. This is very dangerous. I personally believe that if we follow this trajectory as from an anthropological perspective, we will create a path for humanity where we lose what makes us human. We become more machine than man. We will have cybernetically augmented bodies. And at first, they will tell you that it is the greatest step ever to take, right? So they will show you paraplegics, right, that are missing a leg or an arm,
Yes,
and suddenly they can.
disabled people. This is that's my also fear that propaganda might move into the wrong direction.
You know, of course, if a person can walk again due to technology, amazing, right? That is not. I don't think that is the object of debate here. But however, I am seeing, and we saw this with the COVID vaccines as well, which is also part of the transhumanistic agenda because it is about changing our DNA. So, just to diverge a little bit, and we'll go back into the topic, there are multiple attacks happening on the biological organic human being. First attack is, of course, the genetic manipulation of human beings. We have seen this during the COVID pandemic, right? The mRNA vaccines have been tailored to change certain parts of the human genome, the messenger RNA, turning the body into a spike protein factory, causing inflammation and all kinds of other long-term debilitating effects. This is one thing. Second thing is the attack on gender. So the idea that a human being can be born as a male or female or very sometimes androgynous or hermaphrodite, right? We are destroying this whole natural duality, this natural dance, this natural balance, this natural co-creation between masculine and feminine energy by adhering to the LGBTQ plus propaganda drive, which is taking over the Western world, and especially the Netherlands, where I'm from. This is the idea that the human biology can be altered at a whim. This is the idea that if we feel like a certain sex, then we are that sex, even though our biology is speaking against that fact. This is the second attack. And the third attack I already mentioned, this is Neuralink. This is the infusion of AI technology into the human body and becoming cybernetically augmented, so we become transhumanistic cyborgs. This is I would say, the final nail in the coffin. So these are three pretty big things which are being directed by, dare I say, the powers that shouldn't be. This might sound very scary to you. However, I also want to instill hope in you that in all cusps of society, in all parts of society, in all different facets of knowledge, we are seeing holistic paradigms unfold. So, small examples. we can instead of using AI for control, we're going to build a fully spiritual AI that seeks to complement our organic faculties as human beings, not to replace it. We can use, instead of using chemotherapy to fight cancer, we're going to be using very advanced frequency machines to put the right frequencies into the human body, using plasma to charge up the cells and destroying cancer at its root. Instead of using conventional GMO-based farming, we are going to be doing biodynamic regenerative farming, building self-contained ecosystems which naturally merge in with the environment to create natural abundance. Instead of using centralized fractional reserve banking systems, we're going to be using fully decentralized blockchain-based financial systems where we can circularize the abundant flow of wealth and resources.
Yeah, so we've got great opportunities to use AI to our best and create even better devices, heal cancer, restructure education at schools, because we do all feel and know that there is a bit of more of a history that has been not necessarily introduced to us, and many other things could have improved in our lives in general. There are, however, quite a few people who are worrying about losing their jobs, because we are aware of that as well, that AI is way faster in like copywriting and other things. So what would you advise the person who is worried about losing their job?
Well, I would, first of all, of course, tune into your intuition and really see like, okay, what is the value that I bring to the world? I think this is an important question to answer. Anything about professionality, I would say it has to like fulfill three aspects. One is that I really have to enjoy what I do, because if I don't enjoy what I'm doing, then I'm basically living to work instead of working to live, right? So I think this is really important. The other aspect of it is, of course, that you can earn honest living with it, which is also nice. There has to be potential to share that value and get something in return for it. And this is my third and favorite point, is that I have to be able to help someone else doing it. There's many things which are undoubtedly very fun to do and can make you a lot of money. But are they ethical? Are they moral? Are they serving the greater expansion of our species and the consciousness worldwide? It's a question to be asked. So this is where I would start. And the beautiful thing is, if the willingness is there, if you want to pick up a new skill, if you want to create a new initiative, if you want to start a business or any endeavor whatsoever, in our phones, in our pockets, we literally have our own personalized assistant that can help us do many, many things. So this is the good, proper use of AI. It can serve as a very powerful personal assistant. We can even train this assistant to more closely match those things which we seek from it. This is astounding. So what I'm telling you is that if the will is there, then the knowledge can be gathered and the know-how can be applied to create an abundant life. So I think this is a proper way to deal with this. And instead of operating out of fear with scarcity-based paradigms, which they want to keep you in, right? They want to keep you in this debt enslavement. They want to keep you in this system of perpetually creating debt on top of debt on top of debt and paying off the interest which can never be paid off. This is a mathematical certainty. If you can look beyond that, and you can start tapping into the universal flow of abundance that makes all life be animated on all levels of existence. Wow.
Well,
there's that abundance for you.
Yeah, of course, abundance for everyone. And, you know, when I was listening to you, I was just having that picture in my mind, coming back home, having a personal AI, putting my favorite book, I Am That, read for me while I'm cooking something in the kitchen, and having my AI assistant helping my self-development and expansion in consciousness. Isn't it beautiful? Just having that in your pocket, as you said, or back home on your other devices, we do have quite a big chance entering a new world of beautiful perspectives. And it's again all about where we are now at, whether we are using the best and the most profound device in our body, which is heart.
Yeah.
And do we navigate from that space and place of making conscious decisions where it doesn't come from the mind, it comes from the heart. And whenever we are making decisions from the heart, it might not seem first that it's the right decision. However, it's always the right decision. I have checked it so many times in my life, and it always worked beautifully. So I would love to invite those who are watching us to redirect their awareness and just fill their hearts. I would like you to start making your decisions with the heart so we can all enter that new world.
Yeah, and the circumstances don't truly matter. Only your state of being matters at the end of the day. This is the path I've been following myself. I have, honestly, the last few months, I've really just been focusing on my projects, living in my jungle home, enjoying the solitude and the silence, and really shifting from within. Knowing that when the energy with which I show up to the world changes, then the world that shows up changes as well.
It is, indeed. And what did actually make you to move to Bali? What's the reason why you're here?
That's a funny story. So in 2022, I broke up with my ex-relationship, and it was a pretty difficult time for me. I had to quit some of the volunteering that I was doing at the time. And yeah, it was the winter of 2022. It was around half a year ago at that point. And yeah, I was forced to go back to the drawing board, reinvent myself, go back to, see like, okay, what's next? And one day in the winter of 2022, I was sitting in front of my computer screen. It was cold, it was dark, it was windy. Dutch winters can get very monotonous, like very gray, very dark. And I realized at that moment, like, holy shit, the only light I'm getting all day is coming from my computer screen. And I was like, is that the life that I want for myself? Well, that was very clear no. So there and then, I made a pact with myself. I made a pact with myself that I was going to put in a lot of work, I was going to focus, I was going to take good care of myself. Mm-hmm. And then the next winter, in November 2023, I would decide that, okay, you know what? I'm going to spend the winter there. I can do my work from my computer, so you know what? I'm just going to do my online marketing job here in Bali. Turns out that my ex-boss, I quit my job since then, but he lives right here in Ubud.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so he guided me towards coming here, and I stayed 2 weeks at his place, and 2 weeks became 3 months, and 3 months became a year, and here we are. So.
And what do you do now? Do you work online mostly?
So I am mainly doing AI consulting at this moment. So if you ask me like, what do I do? I'm a holistic systems designer. So I take all of the different mental disciplines which I have been studying from when I was like a very young child, and I have really dedicated myself towards the study of systems themselves, right? And right now I am developing and crafting very specialized AI flows for bringing more knowledge to the masses, because we have to break the monopoly on information.
So you do consult companies?
Yes. So I am consulting in the area of AI and technology and holistic systems design.
So whoever is watching us and believe you might be the right person to talk to or work with, how should they reach you while you're not really using your social media? I'd like to...
Well, you can always send out an email to my name, or I can add my WhatsApp number as well, potentially. You can reach out that way, but we'll make sure that the email is added to the description.
So I will ask your email to be added there.
Beautiful.
Fantastic. Great. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we just wrap up?
Well, There's many great things that technology can do, but maybe the greatest technology is the technology on the inside. I think that would be a good conclusion. It doesn't mean we should turn away from technology. It just means that we change the relationship that we have with technology, and perhaps envision the possibility for a bright, wonderful, beautiful, holistic future where all human beings are valued for their unique, individual, organic intelligence.
Thank you so much, Phillip. Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
I'm honored for you having me on the podcast. It was a great pleasure.